Yes, cool. Uh, Pretty simple. We're just going to create the invoice and we'll ship it to the employer. Good to go. Easy as it gets. There's questions, type it in the chat box. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to 10 plus. So 10 plus, what's the difference here? Again, the benefits are the exact same. The only difference is how they're underwritten. So groups 10 plus, you don't have to go through that whole process that we just went through here on filling out the application for underwriting, all of that. Take everything I just showed you and let's literally throw it out the window. So groups 10 plus, I'm going to quote them the exact same as I did groups 10-9. Just use the 10 plus rate sheet. All this jargon here, how census-based underwriting works, and I'll go through that in a minute. But before I do, I just want to look at the rate sheets. Again, what do you notice? Benefits are the exact same. Matches the 2 to 9, matches the individual. All I'm telling you right here is in groups 10 to 49, this is the average rate they're going to see. Plus or minus 75. Same story, different slide, right? What about groups 50? Excuse me. Sorry. There we go. I've been struggling to get my voice for about a week and a half now. Same for groups 50 plus. Same plan, same everything. Only difference is, on average, they get a lower rate. So these are the average rates, plus or minus 75. So again, it doesn't matter what size group you're quoting. Just use the appropriate rate sheet, plus or minus 75 bucks. If you can live with that, we should go to underwriting. If you can't live with that, then let's go look at another product, or I'll talk to you next year. So how does underwriting work in groups 10 plus? Again, there's no participation requirement. Participation that's truly required, we have to have 10 employee households. Again, I don't care that you have 25 full-time employees. If there's only 9 enrolling, then you are a group of 2 to 9, and you are doing medical applications, okay? So as long as you got at least 10 households enrolling, no medical applications. Everybody take a deep sigh of relief there. It's amazing to be able to work without medical applications. All we need is a census, okay? So no med apps. How do we underwrite based on a census? So the employer says, yeah, that 534 looks pretty good to me. I'd like to move forward. All right, well, we're going to use the USA Health Plan census. You've got to use our census, okay? We need this format. So, required. First of all, while you're collecting the census, we need company name, owner name, company address, all that stuff, right? We need our census, which is right here. And on the census, again, only list the employee and the dependents that are applying. Do not list waivers. If you list someone on the census that has no intention of having coverage, then they just went to underwriting, and if they were really healthy and they skewed the rate, it's going to change when you remove them. If they were really unhealthy and it skews the rate, then you may not close the deal because the rate comes back too high. And they were never going to have coverage in the first place and should have never been on there, right? So your ability to get groups across the finish line is your ability to pay attention here and make sure you're doing the census right, because accurate data here is critical, because we're not taking an application. We are literally going to give you a binding final underwritten rate from a census, okay? So do not include waivers. It is required on the census that we get the employees and their dependents' full name, their address, their date of birth, and their gender. That is required. We are underwriting off of that. If you give us fake employee names, you give us fake addresses or whatever, this doesn't work. We can't use ages. We got to have date of birth, right? Because what's happening is we are going to use, although this is specific data, it's generic data in the scheme of, someone's information, right? We're not asking for social. You know what I'm saying? Um, Underwriting is going to look at data points to be able to determine what type of risk exists out in the groups. It's shocking that they can do this, but they do. Okay, and they're going to come back with a final underwritten rate based off of that. So I kind of focus on this a bit because this may actually be one of the bigger hurdles that you have in this whole employer 10 plus underwriting, because you may have an employer, maybe you don't have a very close relationship with them, and that employer's like, I'm not giving you my employees, information. Well, then all I can give you is a quote. That's the quote. There's no collecting information and running a quote. That's the quote. If you like that, there's only one way to move forward, and that's for you to give us this information. Because again, we're not in the business of producing extra quotes. We're in the business of producing a final binding underwritten rate. And where is this a benefit to the employer? Because all you need to do is get this information, and you're going to give them an exact final underwritten rate for them to make a decision. They don't have to bog their company down with applications. You don't have to bog them down and come back with fake numbers. Like, they can make a decision really quick, and this takes no time at all for them to do. In fact, they probably already have this because of their payroll. If they have a plan in place, they definitely already have this. They just need to email you a file, right? So this takes them no time at all. But sometimes you will get a little kickback from some of the employers because they don't understand why they need to give that personal information up front. But this is how census-based underwriting works. So again, be accurate. That's all we need to go to underwriting. It's literally this census. Okay, so let me show you how that looks. It needs to be filled out correctly. So just look at the relationship code. You code employees as 1, spouses as 2, dependents as 3. So again, where'd my cursor go? I know that this is fake information. Don't give us fake information, all right? So if, let's say, John had a second child, say old Billy. Well, that didn't really work out. Anyways, make sure the child's date of birth is updated correctly. And that child would also be a 03, right? Because you just code children as 03. We're not counting children and going 4, 5, 6. You just list them all as 03, right? To do this. So, and then let's say you've got your second employee. Let's say it's Mary. Let's do, put their date of birth. Right. Let's say, put in their address. I don't want to spend too much time here. I don't know why I didn't carry that down. Since Mary would be another employee, then you're back to 1, right? Cool. It's that easy. So again, if you think that the dependents are going to be on the plan, put them on the census. It's easier to remove dependents from underwriting later and come in and add dependents to underwriting later. And that also goes for groups 2 to 9. I didn't say that earlier. If they're doing the actual application, make sure their dependents are listed. Otherwise, it's a pretty painful process to go fill out a whole separate application just for one child and throw it in the mix. You want this to be easy, get everything up front, be very clear to everybody up front. If you think that you're going to put the dependent on the plan, put them on the application. We will remove them if you decide not to have them later, okay? If you're an employee that's on the fence, go to underwriting. If the only people that you don't want doing this are people that for sure are not going to apply, all right? Because again, if someone's on the fence, it's easier to remove them than add them later.